You're entering the wind tunnel. No spin, no bull, just chat. Wind Tunnel is brought to you by Advance Auto Parts, the official auto parts retailer of NASCAR. Here's your Wind Tunnel host, Jackaroo.
Welcome to another episode of Wind Tunnel. I'm glad that you decided to join me this week. Well, IndyCar and IMSA have completed their seasons. NASCAR's playoffs continued, and for both Xfinity and Cup, that meant a cutoff race at Charlotte's Roval. Both races went down to overtime, and in Xfinity, it was yet another win on the Roval for Colleague Racing's elder statesman, A.J. Allmendinger.
They're on the big track for the final time. Allmendinger looking to make it 4 in a row at Charlotte. And can Brandon Jones hang on to this final spot for the playoffs through the backstretch chicane for the final time for the 19? And A.J. Allmendinger announced he's going Cup racing full-time next year. He is still undefeated at Charlotte in the Xfinity Series. He's going to win again at the Roval.
Oh, you're the man. Like I told you, it would all work out. I love you.
See, I was whining pretty bad there. I'm not going to say that. I can't say what I really wanted to say. I was frustrated. Didn't think we had a shot, but I'm always going to put it on my back when it's time to go, and we got that one. We stole that one.
It took an overtime run in Cup to pare down the playoff round of 12 to the round of 8, and those last 2 laps turned the playoff picture totally upside down.
The elimination race in the round of 12 back underway. Side by side and carnage in turn 1. 6 cars turned around. Can they get going again? Out front is Christopher Bell. He's past the 4 of Harvick.
Blaney, one of those cars in turn 1, finally pulling away.
With Bell as the leader, that has Larsen 1 point, just 1 point above the cut line. Cindric 1 back. Again, that's just a position on the racetrack. Cindric, if he gains a position, he'll be tied with Larsen.
And he is in a battle back here. You see it at the bottom of the screen, side by side with the 43 car of Jones down the back straightaway.
And again, the tiebreakers, we see brakes locking up as they go into trilogy.
Oh, the 2's around.
Kane, and around goes the 2. Cindric now waiting to get back on track. Larsen +5 now as they're running on the track. White flag in the air, one more time around. Christopher Bell, can he win his way into the next round of the playoffs?
More cars spinning across the front straightaway here. Ty Dillon, the 23 car as well. Ty Gibbs.
Briscoe, Larsen, tied right now for the final spot. Briscoe trying to grab another position. With that,
Briscoe's got to make this work. He's got to go find this spot. He's got new tires.
the tiebreaker would go to Chase Briscoe, the best finish in this round if they stay even. Christopher Bell now coming out onto the oval. Bell. What a day this would be for Christopher Bell.
Briscoe underneath Eric Jones, but Austin Dillon underneath Briscoe.
Those points are going to change again. The final time through the trilogy chicane for Christopher Bell.
Right side, all clear, all clear.
Cole Custer throwing a block right there on everybody.
Briscoe with a huge drive into the rear chicane.
A 2-point advantage for Briscoe and Christopher Bell. He has done it. He's won his way into the round of 8. The fight for the final transfer spot. Briscoe. He He's done it. He's eliminated the reigning champion.
I didn't see it coming. The road courses all year long, we had not been strong, and normally they're good for me. Like last year with the Gen 6 car, I got my first road course win, competed for several more wins, but this year it just wasn't happening. And, but with that being said, you see races all the time where the fastest car doesn't win. And I did keep reminding myself that we're not expecting to be a dominant car or a race-winning car, but as long as you're there at the end of the race, as long as you hang out, put yourself in position, you never know what's going to happen.
That walk-off by Bell moved him into the next round, along with Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, Ross Chastain, Ryan Blaney, William Byron, Denny Hamlin, and Chase Briscoe. Now, I'll have more on the Briscoe situation in the next segment, but in the meantime, let me tell you about this week's episode. Meyer Shank Racing finished off their 2022 IMSA campaign the same way they started it, by winning. They kicked off the year, if you recall, by capturing the Rolex 24 and capped a championship campaign by taking the top honors at the Petit Le Mans 2 weeks ago. MSR's Michael Shank drops in, and we talk about the team's IMSA success, as well as a review of their IndyCar efforts. Then I'll check in with Peyton Sellers. You see, Sellers and Lane Riggs took the Advance Auto Parts Weekly Series National Championship chase right down to the final races at Dominion Speedway. And only after a postseason audit did Peyton discover that he had lost the title that he thought he had captured as he left Dominion Speedway, thinking that he was a three-time national champion. But Sellers found a silver lining to that cloud when he took the top honors after 15 years of trying at Martinsville Speedway's Valley Star 300, adding a grandfather clock to his trophy case. Sellers takes this week Advance Auto Parts Victory Lap, and we talk about the roller coaster ride of emotions that those 7 days created. But up next, in the midst of NASCAR's playoffs, drivers have voiced their safety concerns about the next-gen car. Others have suffered penalties for rules infractions. And this week, one team took a $200,000 hit for their actions in the final overtime of the Bank of America Roval 400.
With that, Briscoe's got to make this work. He's got to go find this spot. He's got new tires.
Right side, all clear, all clear.
Cole Custer throwing a block right there on everybody.
Briscoe with a huge drive into the rear chicane.
A 2-point advantage for Briscoe.
I'll explain and comment after this timeout.
Hey, car lovers. At Advance Auto Parts, we have what you need to keep your car running all season long. So if you enjoy getting ahead of the curve when it comes to taking care of your ride, Advance Auto Parts has everything to keep your ride on track to reach the victory lap. Because you can trust the team at Advance Auto Parts to assist you in finding what you need at the right price. Stop by Advance Auto Parts, where you're always number one.
This is how we advance.
Welcome back to your podcast home for motorsports conversation. Jackaroot's Wind Tunnel.
With that, Briscoe's got to make this work. He's got to go find this spot. He's got new tires.
Right side, all clear, all clear.
Cole Custer throwing a block right there on everybody.
Briscoe with a huge drive into the rear chicane.
A 2-point advantage for Briscoe.
I'm standing by with NASCAR Managing Director of Racing Communications, Mike Ford. There's been a development here.
Yeah, Claire, we just released the following statement. I'll read it to you now. NASCAR is reviewing data, video, and radio transmissions from the 41 car following its incident on the backstretch during the final lap. NASCAR will communicate the results of the review early this week. Any potential penalties would not affect the round of 8 field.
Here's your host, Jackaroot.
NASCAR officials penalized driver Cole Custer and his number 41 Stewart-Haas Racing Ford team this past Tuesday for their actions in Sunday's Cup Series playoff race, the Bank of America Roval 400 and Charlotte Motor Speedway's road course. The team was penalized under Section 5.5 of the NASCAR rulebook, which requires competitors, and I quote, to race at 100% of their ability and take action against competitors who intend, again, I quote, artificially alter the race's finishing positions. Custer and the number 41 crew chief, Michael Shiplett, were each fined $100,000, and Shiplett was suspended indefinitely. NASCAR officials also issued a 50-point deduction to Custer and the team in their respective driver and owner standings. Listen carefully to the radio transmission to Cole Custer as his teammate, Chase Briscoe, tried to move up and point his way into the playoffs.
I think we got a flat tire. Slow up. I think we got a flat tire. Check up, check up. Just fill it out good. Left. Little tire rub, little tire rub. Still there. Still there. Fill it out good. Come on back. You're okay. Little tire rub. Keep coming.
Now, I know many of you will point out that Briscoe had the tiebreaker already between himself and Kyle Larsen before Cole Custer slowed. And, as Dale Jr. put it, put the block on everyone.
Right side, all clear, all clear.
Cole Custer throwing a block right there on everybody.
Briscoe with a huge drive into the rear chicane.
A 2-point advantage for Briscoe.
But that's not what this issue is about. Instead, in my opinion, it's about protecting the integrity of the playoffs. We all remember what happened to MWR a number of years ago when they tried to manipulate the playoff picture at Richmond.
Well, the whole finishing order of this race turned around when Clint Boyer spun out, running in 16th position with 5 laps to go in the race. Boyer spinning, and the changing circumstances that resulted, allowing his Michael Waltrip teammate Martin Truex Jr. to make it into the chase, will naturally set some of the conspiracy theorists abuzz.
It eventually forced the closing of Michael Waltrip Racing, not to mention the altering of the playoffs. While this isn't of that magnitude, I do applaud NASCAR for stepping in and dropping the hammer on Stewart-Haas Racing, Mike Shiplett, and the entire 41 team. Here's NASCAR Senior Vice President of Competition, Scott Miller.
Obviously, there was a communication from the pit box to check up. The 14 was running behind the 41, and the 41 checked up, and in the process of doing that, blocked the 3, and the 14 went by them both. So, obviously a directive from the pit box to get a teammate in front of him on the last lap of the race, which is something that we as the sanctioning body cannot have any tolerance for. As the race winds down, obviously there's a lot of tension right around the cutoff line. So we obviously know which cars are involved in that. It was the 5 and the 14 hovering right around the line. The 5 had his problems earlier. His finishing position wasn't going to change because of the number of laps that he was down. So, we were keeping tabs on what was going on with the 14, where he was, what the points were. So we had eyes on it and, started digging into it right after with the data. Didn't get the radio transmission until later. But, and obviously, the whole industry has a lot of technology and knows what's going on out there. So it wasn't very long before other people were sailing in, hey, what's going on? There's a clear policy that you can't artificially or intentionally, manipulate the finishing order of the race. And, that it was pretty clear that's what happened there.
It's been a rocky road for NASCAR lately. Drivers and teams have voiced concerns about the safety of the next-gen car, and it has, without a doubt, cast a shadow on what was thought to be a successful new car launch. Now, I'm not going to weigh in on that dialogue. After all, I'm not a driver or a car owner, and certainly not an engineer. But I don't think anyone can say that the concerns expressed by the teams are unwarranted. We'll never know whether or not Cole Custer's actions were an attempt to manipulate the Roval finish in favor of his teammate Chase Briscoe. Listening to Cole Custer's team radio, though,
I think we got a flat tire. Slow up. I think we got a flat tire. Check up, check up.
Can make a very, very strong circumstantial argument. But the bottom line is that the optics of it all just stink to high heaven. As I record this episode, Stewart-Haas Racing has notified NASCAR that they intend to appeal the penalties. Remember, that's their right, and we have seen the independent appeals panel reverse and alter some of NASCAR's decisions. So we'll just have to wait. But I do congratulate NASCAR for their review and their moves to try and protect the integrity not only of the playoffs, but of NASCAR in general.
Next, here on Wind Tunnel.
There it is, checkered in hand.
And Tom Blomqvist and Meyer Shank Racing win the 25th anniversary of Motul Petit Le Mans. Congratulations. Acura has done it.
GTD, Acura wins in DPI.
There's more Wind Tunnel headed your way after this timeout.
Hey, car lovers. At Advance Auto Parts, we have what you need to keep your car running all season long. So if you enjoy getting ahead of the curve when it comes to taking care of your ride, Advance Auto Parts has everything to keep your ride on track to reach the victory lap. Because you can trust the team at Advance Auto Parts to assist you in finding what you need at the right price. Stop by Advance Auto Parts, where you're always number one.
This is how we advance.
What a day, what a season, what a way to end the DPI era. It's given us some sensational racing, Townsend. It's been terrific. It really didn't disappoint today as Mike Shank is pumping, looking for a fence to climb with Elio at some point, I would guess.
Acura has done it.
GTD, Acura wins in DPI.
Well, stepping inside the wind tunnel is a guy who started out the IMSA WeatherTech campaign for 2022 by putting his Acura into victory lane for the Rolex 24. Along the way, he finished out and bookended his season and scored the last DPI championship, because IMSA is going to be changing their rule package, when they captured the Petit Le Mans this past weekend. We're talking about the principal at Meyer Shank Racing, Michael Shank. Shank, it was a hell of a season in the road racing side of things, but you and I have talked at length about somehow it wasn't connecting the same way in the IndyCar season. But a championship, my friend, is a championship, and I'm sure you're going to ride that wave in the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, everything you said is just true. I hate to say it, but yeah, I mean, racing is Jack, it's so tough and so finicky to be great all the time. The consistency word could never be more apparent than in racing. And the trick is, how do we get all the teams to be consistently performing? This year, of course, last year we won the Indy 500 in IndyCar and had a great year otherwise, but and had not a great year in sports car. And of course, this year we're having a great year in sports car and kind of a medium-ish year in IndyCar. So it's a constant tuning device, right? We're constantly, technically or people-wise or driver-wise, do we need to tune, and what do we need to do to be better? It's not something we run from. We understand where we're strong. We understand where we're weak. And it hurts my ego, obviously, to say that we're weak at anything, but it happens in this deal. But the great news is, Jack, that we have really great people here, and it's never becoming more evident than lately when the struggles come around, how great the whole team is, the IndyCar side and the sports car side, how they help each other. And I can't ask for any more than that, really.
Well, and that was where we've talked about it before, but it bears revisiting, is the fact that it is a family. Just because you're assigned, let's say, as an engineer to Simon Pagenaud's IndyCar doesn't mean that you're not visiting with the engineers, your counterparts over on the Acura side, and trying to come up with concepts that work across the board. I understand how fine a balance that is, but is that not the key to continued success once you hit your stride in both elements?
Yeah. We communicate, it's funny because remember, Jack, also we have drivers that do both, right? So Elliot and Simon do both the IndyCar and engineer. We are constantly, the engineers sit in the same room, both groups, right? So there's constant comparing and talking and helping our design. We have young engineers designing parts in here and drawing them, and the production between those, and it's all intermingled, right? But I can tell you this: when you walk into MSR, and especially, Jack, if you look at over the last 4 years or so, 5 years, the results that we've been able to put together on both sides, you're talking about 3 championships in 4 straight years, an Indy 500 win, a Rolex 24 win, a Petit Le Mans win. I mean, all this success breeds more, right? And these guys know when they walk in this door, this isn't your average place anymore. This place is demanding and great, and can win championships at any minute. And I think that drives the overall level internally here. And this is not unlike any other great racing teams. I think that's when you get to this level, I think it's expected of you. And you walk past the glory every day you walk in the shop,
Well, sir, yeah, look, we all know the legend of Roger Penske and what he has accomplished across multiple platforms. But I still think that it's a finely honed moving target, Mike, in convincing employees that this isn't about Jim Meyer, this isn't about Michael Shank, this isn't about Simon or Tom or any of the drivers. It's about all of them and giving them a stake in the success, but more importantly, in any failures that come along the way too.
I call that ownership thinking, that exact thing, ownership thinking, right? Even though they don't have equity in this group as of today anyway, they still feel like it comes up to them and them doing their job at the highest level to get the results that we need to drive our partners and OEM partners, our sponsors and our OEM partnerships. We have to have results. If we don't have it, we ain't got a job.
All right, so let me ask you this question. I alluded to the fact that you will forever be in the record book at IMSA as the final DPI prototype winner because IMSA is changing the rules. Last time you and I visited here inside the wind tunnel, you were alluding to the fact that you were already hip, if not waist deep, maybe neck deep in developing the next iteration within IMSA. So how's that progress been going?
Yeah, so we've gotten our car out. It's going good and bad all at the same time. There's just this car is intensely complicated technically, and getting everybody on the same page. We're kind of engineering it with the Wayne Taylor team and Han.
Which I find ironic in so many ways.
Well, I got to tell you, it was a weird deal on Sunday when we all came out and had to switch gears from trying to kill each other on Saturday to working together, and we did, and it worked great. By the way, it was awkward as hell, but once we got over the awkwardness and we got back to work, and I would say we're working very well together actually, and it's a big undertaking. The car's mega cool. People are going to love these things, just from a sound, the way it looks, but it is not easy. And as we speak today, my guys are in the wind tunnel. They were on track for 3 days at Atlanta this week, right after Petit, and they went directly to the wind tunnel at Windshear, and they're there today. And it is really exhausting for everybody, but a great new era, Jack.
I think that what's fascinating to me is you're at the cusp of probably the two emerging in terms of growing popularity disciplines, and that, of course, is the rebirth of the IMSA series. And look, young people, the Generation Zs, they are attracted to them like flies to honey. And then, of course, you've got over on the IndyCar side, the exotic nature there. So you're living in that 21st and a half century mindset. But let me ask you this. The IndyCar, You've renewed with both of your drivers. You bring a very talented group back for 2023. How much work have you already begun to invest in that?
A lot. Like anything else, we had kind of a medium season this year, not where we wanted to be in most cases, and a lot of that was really up to us as teams and some mistakes we made, and reviewing all that as we speak in the next couple of weeks and understand where we can improve and act on that. We are currently today. Tom Bloomquist is being fit in Simon's car, and he'll run Wednesday at Sebring, which we're really, really excited to see how that goes for Tom. So we continue to evolve, and we run that test. We'll have some things to try that'll help us in 23 from a chassis kind of perspective. But we start immediately, and especially we start for the Indy 500. I can tell you that our Indy 500 cars have been rubbed and rubbed and rubbed, and we're working on them today. We'll do lots of wind tunnel time in them, and we go back and review the season. Where did we let the drivers down here? Where, as a team, what can we do to be better? Mechanically or engineering wise, where can we be better? We need to be better at the 500. I have that alliance with Michael Andretti, and he's on the same thing. They didn't have a great year either, and we all are hardcore pressing to get that program where we want it and know it can be.
Well, I have no doubt that you will succeed on both ends of the coin, and do appreciate every time that you stop by to update my listeners to what's going on behind those massive doors there at Meyer Shank Racing. One of the comments that was made that I thought was absolutely made me chuckle as I watched the end of the Petit Le Mans is Lee Diffie said, Michael Shank is looking for a fence to climb. You've now acquired that skill set from your driver, Spider-Man, haven't you?
Yeah, we have. We had no fence. We jumped up on the pit wall. That's all we had. Trust me, Elliot was screaming, where's the fence? Where's the fence? There's just nothing. There's nothing there, unfortunately. But listen, I was so happy for him too. If you look at Elio's been on a hell of a run for 2 years now, right? He's gotten 2 Rolexes, a Petite, a championship, a 5. I mean, holy crap. This is a rejuvenation, and we love being a part of it,
And he's still got Claire all as a sponsor, so we all think.
Yeah, he does.
Hey, Mike, enjoy what little off season there is, and I have no doubt you guys are going to be hard at work, and we'll catch up again.
Thanks, guys. Thanks always.
He chased that sound for 15 years. Peyton Sellers finally got his Martinsville grandfather clock, and he steps into the wind tunnel next.
Hey, car lovers. At Advance Auto Parts, we have what you need to keep your car running all season long. So if you enjoy getting ahead of the curve when it comes to taking care of your ride, Advance Auto Parts has everything to keep your ride on track to reach the victory lap. Because you can trust the team at Advance Auto Parts to assist you in finding what you need at the right price. Stop by Advance Auto Parts, where you're always number one.
This is how we advance.
Man, this is for all those guys. There's a ton of them out there that are like me, that have won here and all these great short tracks around here. We can do it. We just need the opportunities. Today proved it. Yeah, it's a short track, but it's still damn hard to win here, and we did it.
They are hometown heroes, drivers who put their passion on the line in front of their friends.
Here we go, 3 wide, got Sellers up in the marble.
Halfway home in this one.
Off turn 4, he heads for the checkered flag.
Side by side, Von Dorn across the line first.
Here comes Riggs! Riggs is back at it on the inside.
Buckle up and hold on tight.
Time now to focus the spotlight on hometown heroes with this week's Advance Auto Parts Victory Lap. Brought to you by the NASCAR Advance Auto Parts Weekly Racing Series. Driving local racing in local communities forward.
Peyton Sellers trying to win this race for the first time in his career. They are beating and banging off turn 2. Peyton Sellers in turn 3, looking for the win off 4.
Down off of turn number 4. Finally, it's going to happen. Peyton Sellers has defeated the Valley Star Credit Union 300. Your new champion, Peyton Sellers.
Well, this victory lap on this episode of Wind Tunnel has been long in the making. Our guest is Peyton Sellers, who has visited and taken victory laps before, but his resume was missing one thing until 2 weeks ago, and that was a major event at Martinsville Speedway, the Valley Star 300, and a grandfather clock. He's won national titles. He's won track championships. He's won major events. But Peyton, for 15 years, you had cars that you and your brother prepared that went to victory lane like one season ago, but you were shut out. Tell me how important and how satisfying it was to finally take that grandfather clock home.
Jack, it meant a lot, and I'll be honest with you, I appreciate you having me on today. But Martinsville a couple of weeks ago, that was such a big night for me and my family and everybody involved. 20 years ago, Clarence Pickerel at Clarence's Steakhouse came on board with us and said, let's go racing. And it took a lot of tries to get in victory lane at Martinsville, but you're right. We had a couple grandfather clocks sitting around the shop there from Philip Morris and Landon Pimbleton last year. And to go in the shop every day and see those other guys' clocks was definitely all the motivation I needed. But that one had always eluded us. We had led, I tell everybody, we had qualified on the pole. We had led halfway. We had led the most laps. We'd even led the last lap, but never took the checkered flag there. So it was such a weight lifted off of us for sure. And to do it with my brother crew chiefing, my dad spotting for me, was just a total family thing for us. And big night for us. We came up a little short in the national points this year, finishing second. And to go right to Martinsville the week after that and be able to get that grandfather clock, everything just kind of came full circle for us.
Yeah, I think they call that all the stars aligning. But let's go back to that for just a second, because after Dominion Speedway and their twins, everybody thought that you had squeezed by Lane Riggs to take the championship. It was only after. So you leave the Speedway, you and your team thinking you've scored your third national title. But then the audit by NASCAR discovers a miscalculation in the aggregate points total. So you rode a roller coaster to the very top, to the very bottom. But in the end, is it worthwhile to see that grandfather clock and hear it chiming in your shop? Does that change the way you look at losing the title as close? And it was a great contest between you and Lane all season long.
It was. It came right down to the last night, to the last race, basically. And, we thought we had left there tied in points with the tiebreaker. Well, then NASCAR has an audit and we came up short. It's very frustrating because they found a driver from a month before that didn't have a license or something. I don't know. I don't follow it. To be quite honest with you, you got to get it right going into the last weekend. When you've got two guys racing for the national title, as close as we were, you've got to get it right. And that's all it boils down to. But, hey, I'm focused on Martinsville, bringing that clock home. We won the Virginia Triple Crown the same night. And a Triple Crown is a combination of the best points between South Boston's big 200-lapper, 4th of July night, and then the Hampton Heat over in Langley, which is a 200-lapper, and Martinsville. So we accumulated more points for that and won it. Went into the Triple Crown, the final night at Martinsville, tied for 6th with Bobby McCarty. Didn't even think we had a shot at it. We ran second at South Boston. We struggled a little bit at Langley, tied for 6th. Went into the final night. When they came on the stage with the trophy and the check, I said, guys, let me get out of your way. I don't know who won it, but we'll get out of your way for you. They said, no, you won it. I could not believe it. So that's a really special thing for all the guys around Virginia and North Carolina, because a lot of guys compete for that every year. There was probably 20 guys that raced for the Triple Crown this year that run all 3 races. So big opportunity for me. And to be able to have that grandfather clock now, you're right. It seals off a lot of things in my racing career that now we've done everything in late model stock racing that we could.
I want to go back 20 years ago when Clarence Pickerel approached you, because I think a lot of fans probably don't realize that not only is Martinsville your home track, Clarence Estate is just down the road. Danville is, I always call it a suburb of Martinsville, but I guess it should be the opposite way around. So winning the way you did after chasing it for 15 years and delivering that victory, because Clarence is a racer through and through and just absolutely proud as a peacock, I'm sure. And then to do it in a Paul Radford throwback paint scheme, it's just like all the stars aligned.
You're 100% right. To keep that clock in Ridgeway, their restaurant is only 2 miles down the road, down Martinsville. Clarence came on board with me as that first rookie driver 20 years ago. And I won a national championship in 2005. I went on and done some other stuff for several years while he had Philip Morris drive the car. Philip actually came to our shop and drove one of my cars first before taking over the sponsorship for 5 or 6, 7 years while I was out doing other things. Well, when we got back together, we picked right up where we left off. We were able to win some races and some championships. And Martinsville was always that unicorn. Martinsville was that unicorn we couldn't catch, and but here we are, in Victory Lane 2 weeks ago. You're right, with an orange throwback to kind of Paul Radford there. And it was just such an amazing night to have our sponsors. We've had Damwell Toyota for just as long as we have Clarence's. A lot of guys have been with us forever, a lot of crew members, and it just really everything aligned perfectly. The race went a lot of green flag racing. So we had a green, white checkered, and we had a caution with 7 to go, which made me nervous, but I knew we had a good short run car. And we had ran first or second for 150 laps. So I knew we had speed. I knew we had track position, but you got to bank on the guy not taking you out or making a cheap shot on you at Martinsville. Everybody knows what can happen at Martinsville. And Carson Quapple was on my bumper going into the green, white checkered, driving Dale Jr.'s car. He got to me. He laid the bumper to me a little bit, but he didn't get rough with me. And that's true racers. That's what it's all about. And he got out in Victory Lane and said, I wasn't going to wreck you for it. I know what it meant to you. I knew that you had ran good all night. So to see the kind of sportsmanship that he showed, to see the race have as much green flag racing as it wasn't a crash fest. I don't think they had but 2 or 3 cautions for wrecks. And it was just spin outs. Nobody crashed extremely hard. So, it told me that short track racing is headed in a good direction right now. They had 93 cars show up for that race, and it paid $32,000 to win. I mean, that's a huge night for short track racing. It was live on Flow TV. It was live on MRN. Postman, all those guys were there calling the race. So to see that kind of support for Martinsville Speedway and to be able to go to Victory Lane, I had people texting me and calling from all over the country. So it really meant a lot.
I'm glad you brought up the quality of competition, but also the way the race unfolded, because there's always that potential recipe for disaster. Have spent a lot of time, not only here, but on Sirius XM NASCAR, debating the young driver's approach to racing, where they'll just lean on you. They're just they want the spot. And I know you and your brother and your dad and Sellers Racing and the young drivers like Landon, that you take under your wing. That's not the way you train them to race. It looks as if it's paying off, not only the work that you're doing, but that maybe, do you think we're changing the racing culture a little bit?
So I would like to think yes, and I do feel like it is. I think that NASCAR kind of having the let them go guys approach to letting guys race and wreck and things is probably not good for the young kids coming up. They think, hey, that's what you got to do. You got to wreck the guy for the win. Well, at the end of the day, I'm a short tracker like so many out there that work on their own cars all week, that put them together and have to fix them to go back to the track the next week. I think if the younger kids had to work on them a little more, I think there would be a higher respect level there for sure. But seeing how the racing has gotten better, and, there were no points on the line. It was nothing but money on the line for that race at Martinsville last week. So to see that respect level be where it was, Jacob Hefner also run fourth in the race the other night, and he had the same amount of respect. He could have dove in there and made something happen as well. It was just a good, clean race, and that's all I can say about it. I would like to think that the younger kids are having more respect, but we don't see it on a weekly show that often. You see guys making bold moves, but it was a breath of fresh air to see it this past week.
Look, that'll come. It trickles down. That'll come. And as long as there's cats like you that continue to be so willing to teach them too, because look, how many times have you lost that Martinsville race because of your teammates and how good they're running? So that's why I watched the entire 200 laps, and I knew it was going to be your night when in one of the stage breaks, you said, it's going to get wild now. I could see that killer instinct. You had to suppress the smile. And then I saw your brother talking to you. I said, this is a home run. Break out that Ridgeway clock. It's going home to Danville. Hey, I couldn't be happier for you, Peyton. And thanks so much yet again for taking a victory lap here on Wind Tunnel.
It means a lot. Thank you, Jack. Appreciate it.
You've been listening to the Advance Auto Parts Victory Lap, brought to you by the NASCAR Advance Auto Parts Weekly Racing Series, driving local racing in local communities forward.
I'll wrap up this episode right after this message.
Hey, car lovers. At Advance Auto Parts, we have what you need to keep your car running all season long. So if you enjoy getting ahead of the curve when it comes to taking care of your ride, Advance Auto Parts has everything to keep your ride on track to reach the victory lap. Because you can trust the team at Advance Auto Parts to assist you in finding what you need at the right price. Stop by Advance Auto Parts, where you're always number one.
This is how we advance.
Many thanks to Peyton Sellers and Michael Shank for their visits inside the wind tunnel today. Make sure that you check back in next week when I'll bring you yet another episode of Wind Tunnel. Until then, I'm Jackaroo. Thanks so much for listening.
You've been listening to Jackaroo's Wind Tunnel. Wind Tunnel is brought to you by Advance Auto Parts, the official auto parts retailer of NASCAR. Follow us on our social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And be sure to subscribe to Wind Tunnel's YouTube channel, where you'll discover bonus content. I'm Lenny Baticki of Performance Racing Network's At the Track Show, saying thank you for joining us today. See you again next week.